Well, I do actually have something to talk about. It is that recently I turned my Strava to only me, or private mode, or whatever you call it. So no one else sees my Strava posts.
And how have you been finding that?
Amazing, but it's I think it's an interesting topic because a lot of people have strong opinions about it.
Have strong opinions on you going offline? I call it like ghost mode, and I think there's
ghost mode.
Yeah. I think it's good to go.
It's dope.
Yeah, activate ghost mode.
Well, let me give you the full rundown of my Strava situation currently. I've been using Strava since maybe it's like 2013 or something. Maybe later. 2013, 14, 15, something like that.
Yeah.
Before then, I was just like on Map My Run, mapping things out. And then I was at university, and the triathlon club had loads of keen endurance athletes. And I was like, oh, look at these people. They know what they're doing. And they were all on Strava, especially the cyclists. And so I joined Strava back then. And during that time, it was great. You know, I had my friends on it. As Strava grew in popularity, I had more and more people giving me kudos, and I was connecting with people, and I'd get a few, kudos likes every run or whatever. And then over the years, it's just become more and more popular. And then in recent years, obviously, since I've been doing content on social media, more and more people who don't know me have been following me on Strava, to the extent that I now have over 11,000 followers on Strava, which is wild.
I think that's like a 10x multiplier if you converted it to any other platform. That's the equivalent of like 100,000 plus.
Yeah. It's a lot, and
yeah,
I didn't notice for ages that it was growing because I'm not like looking at Strava in that way. And then one day I think I noticed that it had like 5,000, and then sort of at some point I noticed that it had gone over 10,000 on Strava. But it's not something I've been looking at, and I also don't look at like how many kudos likes I get on each post. Of course, I don't think anyone really does that. It just automatically uploads, and then I have it synced to a couple of apps and all that sort of thing. It's like one of those accounts that's good to have, and generally it's been all good. But over the last 2-3 years, I have received the occasional kind of comment or message or whatever that gives this indication that they're watching me on Strava. And that can come from, I can think of about 3 different messages. One of them was literally, I'm watching you on Strava. I can see the sort of training you're doing. And then he was he was basically trying to call me out for something and calling me a hypocrite for not doing something that I advised or something like that. And I was like, man, you are looking way too closely at my Strava. And initially you're like, whatever, doesn't matter. And I've received a couple more since that have sort of hinted at, we're watching you and trying to find issues. Yeah. So you're like, even if you pretend as much as you possibly can in this life that you don't care what other people think of you, or you don't care what other people see or whatever, at the end of the day, it's going to be playing on your mind. So when I'm training, even though I get loads of kudos and support and people are just low key and cool, like whatever some people say, we love seeing your posts because it encourages me to go out and stuff like that. That's great. Even though most of it's positive, you still are thinking about how it's going to look online, regardless of whether, you're proud of that or shameful of how it looks online. It doesn't matter. You're still thinking about how it looks online instead of being in the moment and just doing the run. I wanted to change that, and I thought that the only ways to change that would be to just turn it all off. So I made a video about it. I sort of like was umming and ahhing about it for a while, and generally the overall message from people was keep it on because I want to see it, or it was do you.
Yeah.
And I decided to do me, and
I think that's the best
ghost
thing
mode.
that you should always choose to do. That's the best pathway.
I turned it on ghost mode, and I have not looked back. It has immediately changed my relationship with running. I feel like I'm getting a dose of what running used to be like for me before I started making content and everything. I'm getting this dose of what it used to be like back in 2013, when I was just sort of training for the fun of it, and I was sort of connecting with a few people, and it was all encouragement on a really small scale, and I like that, and it's my thing again almost, just by turning Strava on ghost mode. And this story will end soon.
It makes your practice a lot healthier and a lot kinder.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will round this up real quickly. But
I think this is such an interesting topic that could be cracked open in so many different ways. So I don't mind if we open this one up.
Well, I think it is too. So the reason I just carry on with more context is that I put a thread out yesterday. Instagram's Twitter threads.
I don't go on threads much, but I liked one of them of yours yesterday.
Mine,
I was like,
really?
I was like, oh, that was hot. Like, that was really sharp.
Oh, really? Well, sometimes I consider myself a Confucius figure, and I'll send out a meaningful quote about life and the things I've learned.
I don't know if this one was Confucius or just come straight up attack.
Oh,
keep going.
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah. Follow on threads for Triggered Tommy.
Yeah.
No. But I put out one that was just like, essentially I've turned Strava on ghost mode, and it's the best decision I've made for my running in years, or something like that. And loads of people are like telling me that Strava's not the problem, you're the problem. Loads of people saying like, you just care too much what people think. You need to thicken your skin. It's not, I like it. They're like, I like it. It's nice to share with people. And loads of support, and it's like, yeah, do you? That's great. I did it too, and it's helped me and stuff. But I found it fascinating that people think that if you have, and here's the big kicker and the thing I want to talk about probably. I think the thing that I find fascinating is that there are people who believe that if you benefit from turning your Strava off, if you feel positive benefits from going private or not posting things publicly on Strava, you were the problem, not Strava, and you're insecure, and you should have been more thick-skinned, and you care too much what people think. You're the problem. And then I was also getting people saying like, if you wanted to go private, you wouldn't be posting all over social media. Anyway, I'm like, okay, you're taking it a bit far, but anyway. But that's the point.
There's just so much
I wanted to make.
Yeah. Like, I've gone through like so many periods of just like activating ghost mode for like so many different reasons, of being like, I actually just want to run for myself. It's like, I don't want any kind of performative nature to what I'm uploading. I just need to like realign myself, and turning off Strava is like one way of doing that. And then I've also received those comments as well, being like, oh, you should just be able to deal with what people say, or you shouldn't care what people think. I'm like, well, for whatever reason I'm wired, I do care what people think sometimes. And that's one thing I want to eliminate. And I find it funny because it's just like, there's going to be stuff that people can't deal with or want to remove from their lives. It's just like, just happens to be Strava. But I think when like running is such a important part of your life, that removing like Strava can sometimes be this thing that is like an additive, and it's positive and it's great, but then other times it can be distracting. It can be like a hindrance, or perhaps you need a rest, but you're like, oh, I need to like keep a streak going. Or I think the place where I get trapped with it is like before a big race, and I'll look at the start list and be like, oh, who am I competing against? And I'll look at their last 12 weeks of training. And I think as well, for you, when people are looking at your training and trying to like give feedback, it's like, well, you might do a run that perhaps looks slow, but they don't know that you've gone and like done a 6-hour hike in Thailand and not uploaded the hike, for instance. And Strava is is great, but it often misses so much context, and context can be 12 years of running, and it doesn't show that in your last 12 weeks. It doesn't show stress. It doesn't show like the accuracy of whether you're using a heart rate strap or not. And then I also think it's like Strava is such an intimate platform because it's got your location, it's got your heart rate data, it's got how stressed you are, how fit you are. I was like, there's a lot of human like biomarkers and metrics. I don't know if biomarkers is the right term, but like very nuanced human details, and it's all on display. So it's like, why do we need to have that much of our life on show?
I agree. I think so much to say on this.
I know. Now that you've opened it, I'm like, we can just rip on this topic.
Few things that come to mind off of what you just said there. Firstly, the location thing. I do think Strava has done something to combat this in that it has the option for you to take away the first and last 400 meters, I think it is.
Yeah.
Of your run.
Oh, I've got mine at a mile. At a mile radius.
Right, sure.
But even so, like
400 meters. Anyway, yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, a 5 kilometer radius would be nice.
Well, I think for most people, like for me, back when I started using Strava, obviously I didn't care if people knew where I was. I had like 400 or 500 friends that I'd met over the course of the last 5 years, running and cycling or whatever. We're all connected on Strava. It's just people, normal people. But when you put yourself out on the internet and you build an online presence, then you're attracting all sorts of randomers to follow you. And just the subtle and occasional hints that I've had over the last few years of people with the not the worst, but not the best of intentions looking at my stuff. Obviously, I don't care what you actually think of my training, but there is an element of, okay, I don't really want everything to be public. In the same way that I don't share my entire life on social media, I'm trying to share a little bit more these days to kind of, maybe bring people in a little bit more in the right way. But I've always been very scared to do that. And in the same way, I don't want to be sharing everything on Strava. And Strava might just be one of the platforms you choose to not be on, right? You're allowed to choose to not be on a platform. So there's the safety aspect, or, Strava's combating that in some ways with certain settings. But not everyone wants to share where they are all the time. Even like I don't want to share my general location all the time. And then when it comes down to the actual data, I mean, you use the perfect example of going on a run and people not recognizing that you may have been on a 6-hour hike the day before and not recorded it. I mean, there's so much stuff that I don't record and put on Strava. I go on a gym session. Yesterday's gym session, I was halfway through and I was like, oh, I'm not recording this. And so I pressed go so that it just goes up there and records to certain things. So I know I've gone on a strength session that day. But so many times I'm not recording my strength sessions. I'm not recording what I've done in the morning for a home workout. I'm not recording a lot of the hikes that Lou and I do. I don't put on, there's loads of stuff in there that's not being seen, and it doesn't give the full picture. You can gain a better picture from the data it provides, or at least the data it presents, because it's not native data. It's data that's native to the watch you're wearing. So you can find it there anyway. The data that you're collecting and that's being presented by Strava doesn't give the full picture, is what I'm saying. And I think, like you said, even if you supposedly don't care what other people's opinions are and you're thick-skinned or whatever, sometimes you just will. And sometimes in a subtle way, you're just going to be affected by it. And
definitely.
Sometimes maybe I am the problem. Maybe I am. But it's been a great release for me to just like say no to publicly posting every workout I do.
100%. And ultimately, you're someone that loves running. It brings you so much value elsewhere. So if removing Strava is the thing that helps you protect that practice and makes you be a better runner, makes you enjoy running more, or keeps you healthier or sleep better, then I think that's pretty valid and doesn't need to be justified.
I also think that if you're not a really experienced runner who knows what their body needs and who knows how to train intuitively and follow a program within reason and knows how to make the right calls for themselves and to ease up and go slower, who's an experienced runner and therefore knows how to run easy and is proud of their easy runs. If you're not that, if you are new to running, it's highly likely that publicly posting your running will affect your training.
Yeah, definitely.
It will impact how you approach your training. It will. If you're not an experienced runner, I think many experienced runners will be like, I didn't care what other people think. I know that I need to run easy and I'm proud of running, 7-minute per K splits because I know that I need to run at that. That's fine. You're an experienced runner. You know it doesn't matter what other people's opinions are. You know what you need for yourself. But for a lot of inexperienced and new runners, Strava will invade your thoughts and therefore impact how you train. It's just going to happen.
I found the best way to combat this is just go and run something really steep or run the trails or run in the mountains. And then you'll finish a run and your average pace will be 12 minutes a kilometer. And you're like, well, this is really humbling. And you got stronger and you got fitter. So it's like you counteracted the Strava comparisons. You're in nature, you got strong, and hopefully you just let go of what people thought in the process. I think that was like one of the best things about living in the Blue Mountains. It's like every one of my runs was like 8 or 9 minute K pace, but I was super strong. I was like, this is hilarious. And it just, outwardly, I might be running 50 kilometers a week, but it could be like 9 hours of running.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to judge it. To measure it, though, is the like hours on feet. Because I've gone from from a few hundred meters of elevation gain to suddenly like 2,500 meters of elevation gain a week.
How's that?
But my mileage, it feels great. It feels so good,
doesn't it? Yeah,
bro. And we'll park it for a sec. I want to talk about your marathon, but I remember you asking prior to the marathon, I'm worried I'm losing my trail legs. How do I
well,
keep on that?
Tomorrow I was meant to be running 100 kilometers and I'm not, so I don't have to worry about that right now.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah.
What were you going to be doing tomorrow?
Pulled the pin. 100 kilometers in the mountains of Oz, Kosciuszko 100.
No way.
So,
is that Snowy Mountains?
In the Snowy Mountains, yeah.
No way.
So I'd be doing race check-in right now, but instead I'm here with road legs. That's runnable.
Oh no! What a tragedy.
Yeah, it is, but it's like I've been a bit flat about it.
Oh really?
And yeah, I think because it was like a big goal that I was like and that's why in the previous episode I was like, how do I keep trail legs on the road and train for an ultra, train for a marathon simultaneously? And I think because it was like a big goal for a long time this year, or it'd been on my calendar for a while, to not kind of tick it off or follow through with it kind of like plays on my brain a bit. But then also it's different to like say running in Madeira and Muir or other races where I've been really excited about. I'm like, oh, perhaps if I had that same level of excitement, like I would be there. Like it could just be the universe just being like, you weren't 100% in on that race. So, and I was at a wedding a couple weeks ago, and one of my like first running coaches was there, and he's one of them like the best. He's like a high performance coach in Australia, coaches multiple Olympians and Commonwealth Games athletes, and I was asking him about his like 4 kind of key athletes that he works with now, and I was like, what are you working on with each of these different athletes? And he's like, this person, I need to manage their load and not make sure they're not doing too much. This guy is about like volume. This girl is like, we just need to make sure that she's excited. And every race that she does, the first thing that we ask is like, are you actually excited? And then he's like, because when you actually get to the point of it where it sucks and you really have to grit your teeth, if you're not excited about the race, like it's going to be a hard slog to get through that and kind of adhere to the goal. And immediately I was like, am I excited about Cozzy? And I want to be excited about it, but I'm not sure if it's just something I've been trying to like manufacture and force. Particularly because it was like I wanted to race Cozzy to get entry into Chamonix, like CCC or... So I'm like, I'm using this race as a tool rather than using this race because I like am thrilled to be there. And I think that's the difference. Whereas like Madeira, I'm like, I'm not using this race as a tool. I'm like, I'm just curious about the landscape. I love the people. My best friends are there. I love living in a little cottage. I'm curious about running the vert and being strong. So there's like so much more like curiosity behind a race like this, whereas this one's just like go there with a checkbox to try and podium, to try and then go to France. And I'm like, could just go to France and run with my mates and be just as happy.
Wow, yeah, man, I think that's such a important thing for every coach to consider with their clients and every athlete to consider with their racing is excitement for what you're doing. And I have to say I've recently had a bit of back and forth and changing of programming with my coach, because I have this thing where like if it gets too clinical and too marathon training like I just don't like it. I hate running. This sucks. This is boring. But the more kind of like playful I can be with my training and excited and stuff, then I'll really want to do it, and I will.
I think that's the key. Like it needs to be playful, and you'll run so well. It just has to be. It won't always be, because ultimately in your peak weeks you're going to be fatigued and tired, and also managing life and everything else around that. But if you can have a higher percentage of playfulness in a training block or globally across the year of training, you're going to be better off in every aspect: racing, life, injury, you name it.
Definitely, man. It's so important. And every individual is different. I think that some people will approach their program, if they're using a coach or a service or something, they'll approach the program and they'll think that they're a failure or that they're not good enough or something if they're not excited for it, or they're not enjoying the training, or they're skipping stuff because they just can't be asked, or they think they're a bad... So, you know, there's such a thing as a bad student, and there is such a thing as a bad like client athlete. But people will put that title on themselves. I do that sometimes. Like, am I just being a bad client athlete to my coach? Like, does he look at me and go, rolling his eyes? Or am I just specifically different and unique and require my own take and my own approach in some capacity? There's probably more that, everyone has specific and unique needs rather than...
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Like some people genuinely don't stick to their program through like sheer like lack of discipline, and you're just like, well, you probably shouldn't have a coach if you don't want to stick to it. But then there's situations where you're like, all right, I've had a big week, like can I move a session around? I might chop 20 minutes off a 70-minute run because I'm like, that's all I've got today. And I think ultimately, if you like are getting through a program 80 to 85% of it, that's a pretty good adherence, and you're not a like bad athlete or you haven't done a bad job. It's like so rare that you're going to just nail everything 100%.
Yeah. I have a question then for you that I get asked quite a lot. And I speak quite a lot about like intuitive training and knowing when to make the right call and when to lean in and be disciplined and when to give yourself rest and all that sort of stuff. How do you know when you're making the right call if you're stepping in and making a call on your program? And how do you know whether it's the right call, and how do you know whether it's like just emotions leading or whatever?
I try and make the call once the run has started. I think it's not always good to make a call before you've got out the door. It's like, at least try, because you know that like 5, 10, 15 minutes in, there's a good chance things will change or it'll click. But I've been like halfway through a session, I'm like, nah, my lungs are heavy, my legs are battered. Like, I'm not even remotely close to like doing this session how it's meant to be done. And then I'm like, all right, today's not it. And then you can go, and then it's like, you don't want to get to this point, but I've been like in a session, it'll be like 8 by 30 seconds, 8 by 45, 8 by 60. And I'll be into like, it'll go 60, 45s, 30s. And my hammy got like tightened up in the 30s, like when it was the real sharp speed stuff. And I was like, do I try and do these last 3 reps? No. And I think that's something from like maturing as an athlete, being like, I don't need to do every rep and I think I probably could have even pulled it. That's something I'm trying to get better at. And I hope these situations don't occur often. But if I'd pulled that session even earlier when I felt like mildly tight, potentially could have just been like, yep, mechanically like pretty tight through the chain today, pull the pin. But I think that's experience as well, because sometimes you just get through a session feeling tight. But I think, in short, don't make a call till you're like in the run.
Such good advice, man. That's such a good little tip. So good.
Because there's on the flip side, there's been days where I've just been like at my laptop all day, super in my head, and then get out and have an absolute blinder of a session. So imagine if I had never left.
Even yesterday, man, it's so funny. I actually made a call. This is so funny. The last 2 days, so I've had this VO2 max session schedule, which I did yesterday, which was hectic. 4 minutes. It's the second VO2 max section we've done. 4 minutes uphill, max effort, 4 times. And last time it was 3 minutes uphill 5 times. I did it 6 times because I lost count. I only knew after
brutal.
when I checked the data. Anyway, brutal. So I was obviously like, I don't know if I feel like this. Tuesday came around. It was programmed for Tuesday. Tuesday came around. Start going on my run. And I made the call to not do it on Tuesday when I started, because I had done like a home workout video that I'd put up in the hub, and I just like, my legs were aching a bit. I wasn't going to get the most out of it. So I made a call. And then yesterday when I went to do this session, I didn't feel like it, but I was like, I got to do it, and I was into it after the first hill rep.
Yeah.
So it was after the first effort that I was like, okay, yeah, let's go, like 3 more. And I was like in the mood. But up until that point, I was not in the mood.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And that's it. You have to get out the door. And then it's also knowing, I think with sessions and intensity, it's like, for me, very rarely is my best rep the first rep. I'm just like, my body needs time to wake up to the intensity of it all. Good topic. Good question.
Well, I think it's interesting that you also said experience. I have quite often, when people ask me the question, like, how do you know when you shouldn't go for a run and you should like pull back and make the sensible decision? And how do you know when it's just like your mood influencing that decision and all this sort of stuff? I think ultimately, like you said, it does come down to maturity and experience. Like when you mature as a runner and when you become more experienced and more knowledgeable, I think you start making sensible calls when you need to. But I certainly don't think that what I know now about myself intuitively and what I know now about my training and my body and stuff, that is just 12, 13 years of running rather than having anything I can tell you that would help you be as capable of doing that, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah, running is training fitness, but it's also training experience, training your mind, training intuition. Like, you're lifting up so many different metrics at once, and you can't cheat time at the end of the day.
That's
I
why
have a question for you. Oh, you go.
Well, I was just going to say, and maybe a subtle plug, but that's why my coaching is very designed to try and enable the individual to actually take their own decision on their training, to order their own plan for the week, to be enabled in how to do that, but to really choose when they're doing stuff and why they're doing stuff then, and all that sort of thing. So I think it's really.
I think it's one of the best things. Yeah, I think it's one of the best things that you could do for somebody is to teach them to be an intuitive runner, because when they're racing and you're not there, what are they left with? They have to listen to their body. They have to listen to their experience. Whenever they don't have access to you, it could be on a Wednesday afternoon run. It's like, you need to actually train yourself to listen to yourself.
Yeah. Whether you're following a plan or not, you can still overdo it. You can still underdo it. You can still get injured. You can still not look after yourself properly. No matter what happens, if you're using a coach or you're not using a coach, you need to be able to step in with intuition and knowledge of oneself to make the right call.
100%. My question is, how do I want to word it? Do you think runners need an off season?
Oh, great question. I wouldn't say runners need. Yeah, define need. I'd say
I think
probably
should there be like a period of time where like, this is going to be more like, you still might run through an off season, quote unquote off season, but it might be more geared towards cycling or cross training or swimming or hiking, and just a time to like re-strengthen, refresh, regroup. Like, I know Killian does it, for instance. He'll often talk about where he'll do like 3 months of cross-country skiing, or like a lot of Europeans will do it. And sometimes in reverse, they'll be cross-country skiers and then go on. Their off-season is like 3 months of running. A lot of sports do it, I suppose. But I think in running, it's very easy to be like on all year round, or always have like go from one block to another, to another, to another. And again, this is my bias at the moment, because I've come off New York and I'm just like, I think I just want to like go to the gym and cycle and maybe learn to like get better on the rower.
I think there is a very big take here that I'm trying to form in my head, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe it, because like there's all sorts of different types of runners, and personally, my general take, if I were to just drop into the running world, I would straight away just be like, right, everyone is doing way too much. Everyone is has really high expectations of themselves. People are racing too frequently and showing that off and glamorizing really frequent racing, and there's very little balance, and we're endlessly chasing more miles, not more balance. And I think we need to have more balance. And I would say that overall, I think having an off season is a phenomenal thing for all runners. Personally, I'm very much a seasonal runner. I have periods of really intense and focused and amazing training, and then I have seasons where it is like sort of an off season, and I'm maintaining and whatever, but I'm still running, but I'm not in peak training for a race. That has been the case for me since Devil's Gulch in the summer. I said to myself and to close ones, I'm not racing for the rest of the year. I've had opportunities to race and I've said, no, I'm not racing until 2026, and I've done that.
Which is interesting, because
really
I remember in one of our earlier episodes, you had like a very intense block where it was like race. It was like 100K, 70K, Slovakia, something else, like a lot going on.
And that's great. I think that's fun. And to be honest, it would have been easier to just sort of change my calendar around. It happened to be that all these races were quite close, and it wasn't ideal. 2026, we're trying to make a more ideal race calendar. But yeah, I think the short answer is I think everyone should have an off season. However, it's not obligatory, and if you run for your mental health and if whatever, then keep running. But I do think that people should have a season of not racing, of revisiting the real reasons why they run, of taking it less seriously, of not being so rigid and clinical about their training, of trying new things. Some people, don't have anything outside of their running. I really believe that you should have more strings to your bow. I'm trying to add a few more strings to my bow in terms of interests and hobbies outside of running. I think that's important.
What have you got?
Well, I'm going free diving again in January.
Epic.
So that's fun. Although I'm a little bit scared because last time I had a bit of an accident. But then, yeah. And then I'm trying my hand at a little bit of Muay Thai. I think Lou and I have sort of dubbed 2026 the year of the hobby.
Love that.
So we're gonna try new things. So I'd love to be sick at Muay Thai and running, and dabble in free diving.
Brilliant. Really good. Can't wait to see that trio of pursuits.
Talking of on seasons and off seasons, so you're at this place now where you probably could do with an off season. I would recommend.
I think so. I think my brain is like, I just want to do low intensity, collect volume, go heavy in the gym, and just rebuild for a while.
Occasionally throw down an interval session with a few buddies.
Yep. That's what I want.
You've recently come out of an intense marathon block, though, and you smashed your marathon PR. Is that right?
Yeah. It's all of those things are true. I wouldn't have gone in saying I was doing an intense marathon block because I was training for this 100K, knowing I had a marathon in the block to the 100. So, but alas, I did the marathon. That was my second road marathon. The first one was in Maui this year, and then this one was 20 minutes quicker than Maui. So, inevitably I ran a PB, which is
amazing.
Great. I think being the competitive person I am, I'm I don't think it's indicative of my potential capacity as a road runner.
Perfect.
But that's just me and my internal standards being it could be so much quicker.
I've had that feeling about my road marathon for 4 years now. I haven't done one since. So
yeah. But I'm happy with it. 2:48.
It's incredible, man.
Sits a lot better than 3:08. I was because everybody's what's your marathon time? I'm well, the only one I've ever done is 3:08. So at least now I'm 2:48. And people are oh yeah, that's decent.
That's amazing, bro. We should normalize being astonished by a sub 3. It's I mean, to get a sub 250 is you're really becoming a silly athlete at that stage. Yeah.
But I had it was an interesting week. I went over there for work. I was there with Morten, and this is going to actually spin off so many different topics, which I will get back to. But I went over there with Morten to handwrite notes to give out. So in New York Marathon, you start at Staten Island. So to get there, you either catch a ferry or a bus, and then it comes back into Central Park. So it's an A to B race. You start out of town and you come into town and come into the city. And Morten were the brief that they gave me were there are so many big brands activating. We want to do something quiet that touches the runner. And I was okay, well, why don't we give them handwritten notes before they get on the ferry? So it's the last possible moment before they start the race, basically, of when you could probably touch them. And I just think on race morning, you've got everything laid out. You've gone through your plan in your head the night before. You've had everything. You've had your brekkie. You're in the zone. And I was you could just crack somebody's armor if you gave them a little handwritten note on race day. That was just I wrote heaps of different like things on the notes, but the main one was like, don't wish it to be over. Because I think that's like something I always tell people when they're racing is don't wish it to be over. One day you'll wish you were still out there. Because when it gets hard in the race, you're like, I just can't wait for the finish line. So anyway, that's the context of why I went to New York. I also wrote the intro to the Mental Athletic magazine. So I delivered that event.
Wow.
And then being in New York, I was like, I just want to meet as many people as possible that I've spoken to online. I was like, there was a bunch of people like you and I, an instance where we've spoken heaps but never met in person. So I was like, can't wait to like convert all these real life kind of friendships, or convert them into real life, sorry. And then my luggage never arrived. So then all these like handwritten notes that I'd done for Morden and had in my suitcase, I needed to redo the day before.
No, bruh. No way.
So I was like up to like 11 p.m. the night before the race. And I think as well, I was like, even if I wasn't working, I've just with jet, like I never got off Australian time zone over there.
Yeah.
But with everything that went on, I was like, I just got to the race. I was like, today it will just be what it will be. And then in the start line shoot, one of my mates came up to me. He found me. And then when I got to the line, another friend found me. And I was like, in a race of 60,000 people, I couldn't believe that I'd found like 2 friends to run with. And this guy, Mikey, was like, I'm going to cruise and then we'll try and wind it up on the second half. And the race, it was, once we like got into the crowds, which was maybe after like 5 or 6K, it's just like unrelenting cheering. Like the stimulus is insane. There's 6 people deep on both sides. You've got kids just lined up, just like high fives.
That's what you need. That's what you need to be keeping that marathon pace, is just like, rah, and you're just like in it.
Dude, but the thing is, it's like not even keeping the pace. It takes you like above pace. And we were just like,
right.
We kept looking down at our watch and being like, we're going too quick. We're going too quick. But we couldn't help it because you just like see another person to high five, then you drop down like 15 seconds and then you're like, whoop, there's another K gone.
Gnarly.
And I found it as a runner, like someone that's raced a lot, really interesting, because typically in racing, it's just like very internalized. You're looking at someone's feet, you're thinking about your form. Whereas for like 25Ks, it was just all external for me. I was just looking around, reading signs, people coming up to me and being like, oh, you're the notes guy. Because I had my notes t-shirt on as well.
Yeah, right.
And I was just like, and then there's this 1 kilometer in this like Jewish suburb through Brooklyn where they just don't care about the marathon. So it's like really quiet. So you just go through there. And I was like, think about my arms, think about my breath. How do I want to run today? What's my plan? Like I actually just like, I was like, this feels like I'm running a 5K road race kind of thing. Like just back into my like regular running thoughts. And that was actually kind of refreshing because I was just like, whoa, I've never run with that much stimulus before in my life. And then I almost had this like come down mid-race from all that stimulus and being like, how do I want to run these like back 14 kilometers? And then through 30K, I was feeling good. Then my friend dropped off. I was like, I'll just pick it up a bit now. 35K felt good. 36K, I was like, the wall doesn't exist. And then 37K, I was like, there it is.
No.
And I just fell apart.
Really? Wow.
My legs just turned to stone. And then it was like it was really interesting because there's not climbs, but they're just like these long gradual ramps. And I was just like,
they're the worst.
These things are killing me right now. And then the last like 2Ks, my hammy was twitching, and then like 40 meters before the finish line, just full cramp.
Full cramp.
Like someone cheered me and I looked around and then my hammy just like completely locked up, shut me down on the spot in spasm. And I was in slow-mo. I was like, I can't believe that I'm
so
40 meters from the line and this is happening to me right now.
Well, we don't truly know the direct cause of cramping, but there is a lot of
you were saying this.
Literature. Yeah, there's a lot of literature out there around like mind-body connection, and there are countless runners, 2 out of 2 on this very podcast episode, who have had cramps within 100 meters from the end of a race. You know, it's so funny how when you know you're coming close to the end, your body just goes, okay. Your brain tells your body we're almost done, and your body gives up.
But it's so funny because I know this happens to people. So in the last kilometer, I'm telling myself the race isn't done till you've crossed the line. Yeah. So I'm trying to tell my body and my muscles, like, don't do this.
But even
like, you're not going to do this.
Even just the intentional telling of the body, don't do this, gives it away that you're thinking about it happening.
Yeah, I know.
And then the body just goes, oh, why are you telling us that? Is that because you know it's almost over? And then the body gives up.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing, man. That's awesome. Amazing how you can find people to run with. You can be cheered on the whole time, and then you can lock into your own race. And only, you know, I guess it's quite a long 5K from the end. You're suffering severely, but you made it with a mad time.
Yeah, and that's it. I was like, I had a lot of fun doing it. Like Mikey and I were just chatting for the first 25K, just zigzagging across the road. And like we went out and our first K was like 5:30, 5:40, like proper pedestrian.
Yeah.
We just rolled because it was so dense.
So dense, yeah.
And I was like, well, we'll just wind it up when it comes.
That's mad.
But I got to give it to New York, like unbelievably organized in terms of like the shoots, the tents, the buses, everything. I was like, this is amazing how they're handling so many people. And then afterwards, I was warned about this. Like you cross the line and you literally have to walk a mile till you can like access like the streets. Like one of my mates one of my mates was like, oh, you're actually going to do an ultra because you have a mile afterwards. And I was like, and I was actually just like buggered, like properly battered post-race. And mile just went forever.
I've always thought it would be funny to turn up to the finish line of a race with a wheelbarrow and just
I would have taken
offer free lifts to like, you know, maximum 100 meter lifts or something, but
needed it. But you came across the line, water, Gatorade, little care package, blanket, and I was like, they were dialed with that, which was really cool.
That was awesome.
So, yeah, really would recommend running that race.
Congrats. Something tells me you're going to be jumping back into the trails as a priority.
Yeah, I think there's
also this underlying dissatisfaction that every marathon runner has.
Yeah. Well, this is where I now can stem into 2 different topics. And going back to this page that we talked about pre-podcast conversation, they just said, they put out this post and it's an open letter to all fitness influencers. And it says, runners pour years of effort into this great sport, blood, sweat, tears, early mornings, long runs in the rain, injuries, da-da-da-da-da. So just saying runners take a long time to get into or pursuing their sport. And then they go, lately we have seen a shift in behavior from certain segments of the running community. Influencers have joined the scene and are often skipping the lottery process and being gifted one of these coveted start line spots and will post a time that isn't real. So, yeah. And then they go, every runner is happy for influencers to be part of the community. In fact, the sport thrives when it reaches new audiences, but in return, all we ask for is honesty. I couldn't agree more with the like honesty. So if you get a spot, be true with it. But I also do feel like that slight bit of guilt because I'm like, my platform and my work is like what's allowed me to skip this lottery entry process that like 99.999% of people have to go through to get into such a major race. So I feel like incredibly grateful to have had that opportunity to just be like, oh, here's a New York ticket, go. But yeah, that was one of my things. And then my other topic is, which was inspired by your thread and super hot take, was, I'm just going to pull it up. Tommy Run PT, dear Runfluencers, if you're going to run across the country, make the charity the main focus, not yourself. Couldn't agree more. On that though, what I've noticed as a trend is all of these people running across countries now want to be really fast at marathons. That's this like new thing that's taken off. Everybody wants to be a 2:30 marathon runner now.
Right.
And I feel like 2:30 is the new 3-hour marathon. I'm just like, when did this come about?
Wow. How much time do you have?
Heaps, Tommy.
These are
locked in all Thursday.
Topics. If you're out on a run right now and you've started this episode thinking, do you know what? I'll listen to this for a bit. This is going to be a long episode, so you might be turning that easy run into a long run. But I've got more time. These are spicy topics. The first topic of influencers skipping lotteries and getting places onto marathons, major marathons, or like big popular marathons. This is a fascinating one. That thing you read out just now, I couldn't figure out if the main problem they had was of people posting fake times after giving
Their main problem is fake times, 100%. Right. Their whole page is dedicated to fake times.
Right. So their big problem is with influencers getting a free pass onto a major marathon and then faking the time that they got on that major marathon.
Yeah. Influencers, micro-influencers, everyday punters, just posting online, posting false times.
So it's the false times things that they don't like. But
there is it doesn't matter who it is, just don't claim the wrong time.
Sure. I mean, I agree with that. Post your chip times.
Yeah.
Post your chip time. Post your chip time.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's like that's it. Full stop. It's not your Strava time. I mean, it's not your watch time. It's just you enter a race, whatever timing system they use, that's your result. However you get from A to B, whatever happens, that's your result.
Everybody who is in that race gets a chip and the time. So we just use that. Even if you doubt the chip time because something happened or whatever, that's fine, but you just use your chip time. I think that's a completely normal thing. I did see some content. Yeah, I saw some content. Yeah. Someone was using it as a bit of a kind of way to encourage discussion because they'd been called out by this Instagram page that you mentioned, unofficial times.
Official times, something like that.
And he was using it to form some discussion. I have to say,
unofficial time.
Official, unofficial time. I have to say, there shouldn't be a discussion. We're not using Strava times. We're not using watch times. We're using chip times. Yes, when you're running a race, you might be weaving through people and you may be frustrated at your chip time for that reason, but that's just your choice of race. You know, if you want to get a PR, maybe choose a different race, or maybe be a little bit more confident at the start and start further ahead. I don't know. Like, there's loads of different things you can do, but chip time should be I think that is the consensus. But then there's a whole discussion around influencers getting free tickets and stuff, and this is, I think, the more interesting discussion, right? Like, what's your take on where do you stand as someone who's been given a ticket to a race? Where do you actually stand on the fact that some people are able to skip the lottery?
Yeah, it's tricky because I'm always going to have a bias and can't speak completely, I guess, without it, because so many, even like before my current platform, I was still racing in like 2017, 2018 as a travel blogger with like a media pass. And because I was getting into these like sky running races off a media pass because I was then blogging about it for a tourism board. So it's still, whether you're getting in as an influencer or as a media pass or any other kind of entry, it's like, it's not the like public pathway. And it was like, I've actively chosen to like build a career that opens me up to these opportunities. But I think if you do it, if you get in through that way, it's like, you need to like tell your story. You need to showcase like truthfully your experience, what you're there for. But it's life, it's marketing, right? It's like an ad, like a newspaper has space for ads. It's like putting a runfluencer in a marathon. That's the like classified section. That's the ad section, right? So, and that's why a race will do that, because they're trying to grow exposure to their race. They're trying to get more eyes on it, because ultimately most races are businesses. So I get it. And if I had a race, I would want it to be like public, open to the public, but I would still want certain people to come to my race that embody running in a good way or embody the style of racing that I put on. Like, yeah, I think it's not important, but it's always going to be something that is unavoidable.
Yeah.
But you go.
Well, when you really think about the structure of it all, most of the time an influencer gets a place on a race, it is from a brand, actually. These major races, anyway. These major races give brands space to basically pay for or gain, give people access to.
And that's the thing. It's like the brands pay a lot of money. It's like the brands are often the ones that are funding these races or help them be what they are.
Yeah. So you have different types of transactions happening between influencers and races, and sometimes, quite often, it's through a brand. I think where people struggle with it is it's not in races where the race is struggling to find participants. That's where people struggle with it. That like, it's usually the uproar is when there's a lottery. It's extremely hard to get on these races. People have been trying for years and years to get on, they can't, and then some influencer waltzes in and just gets a place, and it feels like that influencer is taking from that person who could have joined or whatever. That's, I think, what people have an issue with. I've run races where the race itself has offered me a place, but that race is small. It's not like at max capacity. So I'm not gaining access to a race where someone else could have had my place, the normal route, if that makes sense. I'm not really sure where I stand on it, other than if you're offered a place, you better do that place justice. Like, I think if you're saying
I think that's
yes,
how we're wired, right? It's like, if someone gives us an opportunity, we want to make the most of it and give them the best of us and showcase it in that way. Whereas some people maybe are not into running as much as we are, don't operate that way, and they're just like, oh, I just got an entry to New York Marathon. And they're just like, it's not a bigger deal to them.
Well, I think if it's a case where you're potentially taking the place from another person, if you want to see it that way, like if it's a race where people get rejected because it sells out, or if it's a race where it's a lottery, it's a ballot, and you have to go through certain hoops to get in. If it's that, I believe you should only say yes if you're able to race it. I think that's where that's where I currently sit.
Yeah.
I think that if an influencer is given a place to a race and it would take, in theory, a place from another person, like it's a place with a lottery and all this sort of stuff. If that's the case, you should only say yes if you're in a position to give that race your best effort. If you're not willing to do that, if you're going to just say, oh yeah, I'll take that place and then just jog around and have fun, that's fine, but that I can see why people would get annoyed by that, because the place you've taken has not been taken seriously, whereas someone could have gone and done their best effort there, basically. I think that's the kind of take that I have.
Definitely. But in saying that,
I'm trying to see it from someone else's perspective, someone who doesn't make content, that sort of thing.
But also, there's probably just like the lottery, which we're not taking
100%.
from, and then there's just an allotment, which is like
that is how it works.
A race structure. Yeah,
that is how it works.
But it doesn't come across that way.
Yes, yeah. So in reality, behind the scenes, there are no places being taken from one person and given to an influencer. That's not how it works. There's
it's
a certain
just the cream
number
on top.
It's like budget allocation in a business. You know, you're not always just taking budget from another person. No, it's just you have this budget, you run out, that's it. We're not sort of moving that around. It's the same way for brands. They'll buy up a certain amount. It's like in a stadium. You can have a whole brand that will buy up a whole sort of area of a stadium, and all those seats are taken. They're paid for. If they don't fill those seats, it's not a wasted seat for another spectator, because it's the different area. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like that. Maybe using a tenuous analogy, but so I don't think people should be like, oh, you've taken that place from me and then you've wasted it, because it doesn't really work like that. But optically, if you're an influencer, you get invited to a race, I would advise you to only do that race if it works well with your calendar year and you can actually do your best effort and share your chip time.
100%.
Well, you don't have to share. You don't have to share it, but at least give it a go.
Well, I think I did that. I gave my best effort.
You definitely
to the point that it was probably detrimental to my calendar.
I also think it's worth saying, I also think it's worth saying that most people don't really care. I think most people don't care. I think most people are like, yeah, we like seeing the content from these people, and I think there's a select sort of there's a corner of the running world that gets sort of annoyed by it, and I get that. But it's the world we live in. It's the structures we live in.
But those people are purists, and I was actually having this chat with like one of my best mates the other day. Like his friend, for the matter of the story, was doing a big running challenge, and this guy doesn't run at all, and he's come from like a pretty big like partying background, was doing a like 50k a day for 10 days and was receiving like brand deals, opposed to like a running purist that has been training for a 3k and a 5k for 15 years and has never had a brand deal in their life. And I was just like, well, that's just like, at the end of the day, it's like the guy running 50k a day for 10 days is entertaining. Like, it's better for a brand. And you always have to come back to like what it's been optimized for and what the brand sees.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I have this discussion, I just remind people that within elite sport, some athletes get paid more than others and are not as talented at that sport as the other. You could have two different basketball players. One basketball player is sensational, always, really clinical on the court, amazing, well respected from the team, all this sort of stuff. But his personality is non-existent. Maybe he doesn't speak English, and he's very different, very difficult to use as advertisement. You can have another member of that team who's not as good, but is a loudmouth, really entertaining, got a massive social media following. That person's going to make more money. That's the sad reality.
Sells
they might not be as they might not be as good at basketball. The same is in running. The same is in running. Whenever you hear coverage of top running, quite often that coverage will talk about whether that person who's up and coming is like sellable, whether he's going to do well, or he or she's going to do well because they're a character. If they're like a really well-loved character, then brands are gonna be all over them. You know, it's just that's how it works. And the same works in sub-elite to amateur running. You can have
across the board.
People who, you know, brands don't really care all that much about how good you are a lot of the time, especially for a participation sport like running. They care more for how much you appeal to their customers. And you know, we need to support. We definitely need to support the elite level of the sport. I think we're all many of us are interested in the elite level of the sport, and I love seeing elite runners get sponsorship deals. But there is a reality, like you mentioned, that you know, if you're doing something sellable like 10, 50Ks in a row, that might just be more appealing for brands than getting an exceptionally fast 3K time.
100%. Great. Was there anything else that you wanted to riff on? The 2:30 marathon?
Oh yeah, the 2:30 marathon. Yep. We've got a few more.
Just to jog your memory again.
2:30 marathon, I agree, is becoming the new 3-hour marathon. Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot, actually. Our expectations of what is impressive has gone through the roof, and I think there are a few reasons. I think there are a lot more good runners now than when I started running. There are just so many more amazing, exceptional runners now. That's the reality. The second thing is that, you know, we're wearing shoes that ultimately do make us go faster. That is a fact. I think people are shaving off minutes with their shoes, sure. So technology has improved. But then also training and coaching and programming has improved massively. And culturally, within marathon running, when I started running long distance, people would just run more miles to train for a marathon. Now, everyone has a clinical marathon training plan. Everyone, whether they're overtraining or whatever they're doing, but everyone has quality sessions in their training. Everyone has some structure, a medium run and a long run, and, you know, easy training. It feels like everyone's actually vastly improved how they're preparing for these marathons. So you have more marathon runners, you have more exceptional marathon runners, therefore. You have more exceptional runners and normal runners and every runner in between training properly. And people are wearing fast shoes. That's what I think is happening. And so you're also seeing on social media just like everyone's apparently running like sub-3 marathons now, and that's how it feels, which is not the case, by the way.
The actual average completion time of a marathon has got slower because there's so many more people doing marathons now. Just everyday people are just like, I'm just going to do it. So, and they're doing it, but typically it was just trained runners that were doing a marathon where people are like, I think I can do it. I'm just going to go and grind it out. So the actual time is not trended down, it's trended up. Yeah.
Well, you'll have more people who are really good at it, but you'll also have more people who are under training for it. You'll have more people who are not, in inverted commas, respecting the distance. You just have more people, so you have more of everything. You have more amazingly fast runners and more slow runners too.
Respecting the distance is such an interesting term, though. It's just like it just is a distance. You either do it or you don't. And I think respecting it is in relation to trying to do it well. But why does everybody need to do it well? It's like you can just go out and disrespect it and still have a journey and tell a great story and be proud of yourself.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that term. I think it comes from people who really believe that if you're going to run a marathon, you should run the whole thing. Does it come from that?
Possibly.
Maybe,
I think my
possibly.
take would be, because I've definitely told people to respect the distance, but that comes from a place of like, I want you to love running after doing the marathon, not complete the marathon,
Interesting.
get injured, not run for 4 months and be like, running sucks. It's like, for me, it's like, respect the distance and respect the time it takes to get your body to a place where you can do it and recover well, so you'll continue to enjoy running. Because for me, like, your goal is to build an intuitive runner. It's like, my goal is to get people to love running so they can do it to their 80. And that's why I'm like, respect the distance if you want to be in it for the long game.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement. I think that a lot of people, I would say that disrespecting the distance would be underestimating how far a marathon is, right? It's sort of like, if you're not respecting the distance, you're saying that, oh, I don't need to do much training I'll just grind it out. I'll just do whatever, That's not respect. If you're respecting the distance, you're saying, oh, this is a beast. If I'm going to really run that, I need to train for it. Because it's a huge distance.
It's so far. It's still
really far. It's really far. I also think that term has become more popular because there's been a massive increase in the number of people running, and therefore a massive increase in the number of people doing marathons. And I think that people who have been doing marathons for a while almost want to warn people who are unfamiliar with the distance to respect it.
Definitely.
Because it can be dangerous.
It's also that case of people wanting them to experience things the way they have and to go through the same process.
Yeah, I think
it's like, this is how I've done it, so you should do it this way too.
There's a bit of that for sure. I would say a lot of the beauty of running marathons is not in the marathon itself. That's what I think most people recognize. So people who run marathons, they don't want people to just show up to the race. They want people to show up to everything else that's important, that they find value from, that is hard about marathon running. Marathon running requires a lot of training if the distance is respected, right? And so I think people are like, I want you to come into this thing that I adore. Sure, I want you to do it, but I want you to appreciate it the same way that I appreciate it. And that is, it requires a huge amount of distance. It is not to be underestimated. We should respect it. And I think there probably is an increase in the number of people who aren't necessarily doing that. But I'd say you just need to run a marathon to then respect it.
Yeah. I feel that entirely. I was like, God damn, this thing is brutal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My respect for it's gone up.
Let's go from marathons to running across countries then.
Great. You want to start?
Yeah. So, I mean, most of the threads that I write is sort of...
Talk up.
73 likes that one's got. Yeah, people like that one. It's got some comments. But it's not for charity, it's for views. Dear Rumpfluencers, if you're going to run across a country,
was really surprised that you put the charity. I was really surprised that you put the charity part in, because I think it's a very difficult topic to talk on, because as soon as someone runs something for charity, then nobody can touch them. You're like, oh, I'm doing this amazing, really big challenge and it's for charity. It's actually, like, deep down, it's because I'm curious about running across the country, want to build my personal brand and get sponsorship deals and create a career for myself. But if it's then when it's paired with a charity, it's like, oh, actually, I'm doing this for charity. So yeah, it has nothing to do with personal gain outwardly, even though it's all benefiting personal gain. But my thing with this is like, if you want to run across the country and build your profile and build a career, just say that. Like, just be clear on the tin and you'd be on your way. But if you're actually going to like do something for charity, like, then align with what you're doing.
I think the one reason I've been thinking that thread quote, what I put out, that post, I've been thinking that for a long time, and I just put it out there. One of the reasons I've been thinking it is that like a lot of these people, they'll do these public challenges and they will greenwash it with a charity. And I've been to the promotion of it. And I've turned up and it's all about them and it's all about the brand. And there's no mention of the charity, but there is also a charity attached to it. I'm not going to call out which challenge this was or who this was, but I've seen it, and the intentions, the intentions are just simply not to raise money for the charity. And for me, I think it's a great byproduct of what they're doing. But personally, what sits way better with me is when someone is doing a challenge that is really hard and they are legitimately doing it for a cause that they care about. And yes, they're posting about it. Yes, they want to be praised for it to a certain degree, that you're only human. But I think that there's a very clear difference between someone who makes the charity the focus and is driven by that charity, who when they call for donations, you can see that they actually care about the cause, that they've chosen the cause because they have chosen the cause and not some brand has just said, hey, we need to greenwash this. One person currently who's doing something who I'd love to call out is Sam King. Sam King is doing 75 ultra marathons in 75 days. He's just broken the world record for the most consecutive ultra marathons at 60, I believe, supposedly.
Wow.
And he really is. It seems to me like he really does care for the cause. He's got a close reason for it in his mum, who's currently ill, and he's raising money for Headway, and it just comes across very legitimate and genuine. And he also is open about wanting to break the world record, and that's been important to him. But I don't know. I think there's a way you can do it, and Sam King is doing it in the right way. I think he's someone who seems like a decent guy. He's raising money. He's really trying to raise a lot of money for a cause he cares closely about. And he doesn't seem, at least, like someone who, when he's on camera, is really trying to kind of make it all about him. I don't know.
I think what makes it tricky, though, is like often to raise the most money, you also have to grow your profile. Like,
well, this is it. Yeah.
Very rarely do you raise a crazy amount of money and not also grow your like personal brand and profile. It's like growing the personal brand is what allows you to raise a crazy amount of money.
Yes,
but
in order to raise a huge amount of money, you have to be good in front of a camera. You have to be great in that way as well. And it's good that you are a personality, because then we can make the most impact.
Yeah.
But I guess the tweet just came from a place of like there've been quite a lot of individuals who've run across countries who rub people up the wrong way because it clearly is all about them. Yeah. That's fine though.
Well, there was an example of like a cross an entire country run this year, which was, the charity was for cancer, but the runner at the end of the day was smoking. And I'm just like, for me, I was like, as a consistency and message, you smoking at the end of the day, but raising money for cancer is like, that's a complete paradox. It's like, you're not actually like, you're doing something that is so statistically aligned with causing cancer, but you're raising money. I was like, the actions was just like, this doesn't add up. Like, you don't actually really care.
Yeah. And I think that stinks of I'm doing this more for me than I'm doing it for the cause. And that is a reality that a lot of people notice, I think. And I think that a lot of backlash is to be expected when you act in an inauthentic way. And you say that it's for charity when it's really not. That's how I feel, anyway.
Yeah.
But I think we can do. I think they inspire people in loads of different ways, and I think generally they're a net positive. But I prefer these transcontinental, trans-country efforts if it doesn't really just stink of self-promotion. I feel a little bit more support.
And maybe that could just be our Australian and UK upbringing. Because I'm sure if we were American, we'd just be like, go for it. Do whatever you need. Yeah. Maybe that's just our like tall poppy syndrome built into us. Maybe. But for me, I would like to just see a bit more like transparency. It's just like, you want to build a brand, go and do extreme shit and just say, this is what I'm doing. And if you're doing something extreme, people, they just want to watch regardless of what the cause is.
Yeah. And maybe I'm just being extra cynical of this kind of like, and calling it greenwashing, when in reality, they're just seeing an opportunity to also, as a byproduct of their self-promotion, raise money for charity. And that is a good thing. And whatever.
I don't know.
Really
I grew up where if you did something for charity, it was like something that was like deeply uncomfortable, like something that actually scared the shit out of you. And for my first ultra, I raised money for a charity. But now I'm like, I love this stuff. Like, I don't need to raise money for something that I'm doing for enjoyment.
Yeah, that's where I sort of sit on, especially on the, like if I'm running a regular sort of race, like a 100 miler or something, I won't raise money. But, you know, you could raise money as a byproduct, but it is sort of like an adrenaline junkie doing a sponsored skydive.
Yeah. Completely.
Like what do you mean you're you're just having fun?
You're gonna do this regardless.
Yeah, but then if you're talking about transcontinental, or you know, like a circuit, like going round the perimeter of a country or something, then that is ridiculous. No one truly wants to do that, or maybe they do.
Yeah, but then it's like, all right, well then I'll give you an example of somebody that didn't do it for charity and was purely branded. Like, Represent 247 took a bunch of guys and girls to Iceland to run around that. And I was just like, what's this about? Like, for me, that had no kind of like soul to it at all. So it's a really interesting one to try and hit, of the way you tell things. And even with Notes Running, it's like I'm developing a crazy race at the moment. But for me, that's kind of like built from, I was just sick of seeing, like there was a certain race on the calendar. I was like, I don't want to do that anymore because it's become so popularized. So I want to create a different format that is wild and challenges people, that doesn't have like every brand across the world wanting to be a part of it. I just want to create something small and pure. And I pitched it to different brands and no one wanted to be a part of it. So I was like, well, screw it. Now that I've got my own brand, I'll put it on myself.
Yeah, man. Oh, man, it's hard, isn't it? Because I think it's just going to appeal to different people, you know. There's certain content out there that has no soul, but loads of people love it because it looks cool, and that's it.
Yeah.
And sometimes things do just need to look cool. And it's like, we just need a really good side angle shot here of you running through the you know, the winter in some treacherous place, or I don't know. You know, I just like we need you sat there with a hood up on a chair between your efforts, and it needs to look cool, and that's fine. Also, there's for the purpose of like cinematography or filmography and making cool shots, and like I'm cool with that as well. But it's just going to appeal to different people. for me personally, what's always appealed to me within running is the heart of it. It's the soul. It's the emotional turmoil that like an individual goes through. But it's not looking cool. It's not like looking cool while you do it. It's
No.
it's investigation of oneself and the desperate attempt at finding what you're capable of. That all of that, really documenting that inner work. That's what I've been fascinated by all my life within running. It's not been, oh, I'll watch this because that guy looks cool as he runs down the side of a motorway. But for some people, it does really appeal. Like there's content out there that I screw my nose up at, and then I'm like, I know this will do well because it just like people like this stuff. And I think it probably ultimately all comes down to that. And my tweet of Runfluencers, if you're gonna run across the country, do it for the charity, not for yourself. That just comes from a place of my preference is to watch people do things with a bigger purpose than just self-promotion.
Completely.
But we all want a bit of self-promotion to be successful. So
Yeah.
I also understand that. So yeah.
Yep. Entirely. Each to their own.
Each to their own. Nothing to say on this is written in stone. I might change my opinion on most of the things I've said, but we always appreciate you listening.
Yeah. Thank you so much for letting us air our thoughts out.
We didn't do any show and tell, and that's because we didn't need an icebreaker today.
No. Go on. Let's see it.
That's my show and tell. My humongous bicep.
Tommy was sending me photos of his pipes from out on the trail, and I was like, brother, there's your show and tell.
Next time.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, my headphones are about to die, and I better go for a run.
Yep. I better go do some gym.
Sweet, man. As always, nothing but a pleasure to chat, bro. And
Dude, so good. Proud of you, man.
I'm proud of you too, bro. We're doing so well, you know. You're doing especially well at 2:48 marathons. I expect next year a 2:42.
I'm happy with that.
Do you reckon you got that? Do you reckon you got 2:42?
I reckon I got that. Don't know where, but I reckon we can do that.
Maybe we'll put on our own event.
I'll text you after this, my event.
I have some interesting things to text you about as well that can't be announced.
Oh, so good.
Oh,
Till next time on That's Runnable.
Thanks for listening. Run the Runnable.
Send us a message if you enjoyed any part of this. Big love.
See you soon.
See ya.